You got me wanting to buy a PS5 just so I can play PS4 and PS3 things.
That's like the main reason I want one too, to be honest, because I was like, oh yeah, I want to get all those new ones, and then I was like, wait a minute, there's not going to be any like new cool PS5.
Last time we were all together, you guys were all shitting on the PS5. Dead system. Nobody gives a shit.
I can't believe it. Is it really outselling the Xbox that much?
Oh yeah, it's trouncing it.
That is wild to me, because like the Series X had such a head start.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games. This is our first session in the new year here where we got the full crew sitting down, so it's good to be back in action here with everybody here. And good to have you back, Randall.
Thank you.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've been diving into a ton of video games since we've had kind of a little bit of a long stint here since our last sit down all together. I've just been kind of firing things back up. Got my PS4 back in action, which I'll get to a little bit later. But John, I know you've been kind of diving into a handful of games from a developer that we've all kind of grown to love. I think Randall's even been diving into one of these as well, so we can kind of kick this one around amongst all of us, I think, a little bit, but you can take the lead here.
Yeah, we've all been playing a bunch of the titles from Team Ladybug, and we've talked about a couple of the games before on the podcast, to some extent. I know, Kevin, you've played DRAINUS. I've talked about Touhou Luna Nights, and I think maybe...
I think I did too, yeah. Well, like when I played it on Game Pass or on a Save It for the Cast or something, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm mostly going to be talking about Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, which is a
mouthful.
Yep, it's the least memorable title for me, just because it slides off my brain. And it's another licensed IP game like Touhou Luna Nights, but it's a similar bullet helly metroidvania thing that they've really perfected and have made their specialty. And they're coming out with a new game tomorrow, which we're Blade Chimera, which I'm sure we're going to cover at some point on this podcast as well. Lodoss War specifically is a game that I knew people really liked, and I had always heard good things, but for whatever reason, it didn't really appeal to me for a while. I had owned it for a while, and it just kind of sat on my back catalog, and I didn't touch it. And I started playing it last year, and it was interesting, but didn't really hook me. And then something happened where I guess I just sat down long enough to actually dedicate some time to it and, remember how the controls worked and what its specialty was doing. I think it maybe even after I started playing DRAINUS, and DRAINUS was really introducing sort of this mechanic that wasn't really like Ikaruga, but the way that Team Ladybug handles either graze mechanics or charging dodges and using things that they yourself into danger that then can charge up an attack or a move or some special mechanic. It's the really interesting versions of bullet hell mechanics in other genres. And the way that they do it in Record of the Lodoss War is explicitly Ikaruga, where you have two spirits, you have Sylph and Salamander. So they're not even I wouldn't call them thematically opposite. I don't know if they are in the actual Record of Lodoss War story, but it's you'll have enemies that have fire attacks and enemies that have wind attacks, and there'll be obstacles. There is even, you'll pass by a lava level, and if you are charged as Salamander, it'll just heal you. And you have a very low health bank, Like you don't really get that many upgrades throughout like the story like you do in Touhou Luna Nights, where you can expand like your HP and MP and whatnot. Like you get some of them, but for the majority of the time you are working with like basically the same amount of health that you get from the beginning of the game. So you are just constantly, like anytime you encounter a fire enemy, like you are charging up your salamander, or your like switching which your resonance is with what element. And especially when you're in bosses, you're using that to charge your mana pool, and that you use to cast spells. And the way that like both Touhou Luna Nights and Record of Lodoss War use almost like automatic or like auto targeting of spells or like special attacks, so that you are focusing a lot on dodging attacks or dodging bullet patterns. Like it keeps a lot of the bullet hell formula in the metroidvania, specifically in boss fights. But then the boss fights themselves, like there are more elements than just the fire and wind in the game. So you'll have to just clearly dodge other elemental attacks that you can't absorb any HP from. But it's a lot of like managing HP, NP, and like auto attacks, and like finding openings and dodging bullet patterns. And it was such a satisfying formula of that like it kind of like, I really liked Touhou Luna Nights, which has its own like time freeze mechanics, and
some really cool like tweaks on like the graze mechanic, and that time freezing I remember just being so cool. And I don't remember, it's been a little while since I played that last, but
I booted
so
it up
cool
to like just get a refresher on it. And like the way that you are balancing your MP and time in Touhou Luna Nights, you're just balancing like MP and HP in Lodoss War. So it's like a little bit less mechanically heavy, but at the same time still kind of like
still sounds pretty action packed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, which I'm always a little bit surprised. Not that you're like, you play tons of action games, so I don't know why I'm surprised at this point, but I always just think of you as like more of like a methodical gamer for some reason. So like when you're just like, oh yeah, I'm playing this like bullet hell fucking crazy Metroidvania, I'm like, John? Okay.
It has to be a very specific one, because
change that happened there.
Yeah. But
I love it though.
I'm so impressed with Team Ladybug as a whole. Like, we'll get more into DRAINUS, whoever wants to take point on that. But man, that's just such a great game.
Do you want to take the lead or dive into that a little, Randall, since you've been the one kind of playing it a little more recently, I think? Or I think we've all been kind of playing it. That's the one that I think we've all been playing as of late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had me fish my physical version, which I wasn't sure if I actually owned or not, out of the closet there. And I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I did get this game. It's still sealed, of course. I bought it because, like all of these games from Team Ladybug, they have this just gorgeous 32-bit Sega Saturn aesthetic to them, and I just can't get enough. DRAINUS is no exception there, and it screamed of Gradius spiritual DNA, but not broken and busted like Gradius can be.
And not like impossible.
Not impossible, not rote memorization necessarily, although like any shooter, if you understand and you get to know the levels, you're going to do a little bit better.
It's easier.
Yeah, right. So there's a push and pull there, but just the mechanics of how this game is intertwined, kind of like what John was talking about with the absorption of it all carries over to DRAINUS, where you have this guard mechanic where you have this barrier that you can activate when certain types of bullets are coming towards you. Mm-hmm. You can absorb those bullets and then turn around and Panzer Dragoon them back out from yourself to home in and attack enemies, which just feels really good. And beyond that, though, like Gradius, you have a whole bunch of your own attacks. You can customize those with, you've got your traditional shmup like laser attack as opposed to, your spread shot, as opposed to, the ability to drop a bomb or, homing missiles, whatever it might be. And you can customize across the board your experience to when you get these kind of little upgrade discs from destroying certain enemies, especially like red colored enemies or boss enemies like Gradius. And there's other games that kind of follow this too. A lot of the compile shooters do some similar things this way too. But you're collecting those special upgrade abilities, and those discs are allowing you to kind of go through your preset like upgrade path that you've defined between levels using these items that you've got in the level. Depending on how well you do, you get more of these items that you can then spend to enhance functions of your DRAINUS ship. And I didn't even
also
really
your like HP as well.
Yeah,
so
yes.
like, if you take a hit, then you don't have access to that anymore. So you have to like prioritize which in the loadout. Like, where do you like? I think I put the like either like a 5-shot or a 3-shot in my number 1 slot. And then like a homing missile or like the ricochet laser in the second one. Just like. Because I'm like, I need those like
in
more
your
than
actual
anything.
number 1 slot. Like, did you actually like? Because you can like pay.
Oh yeah, I got the jailbreak.
That.
Of course, I got the jailbreak.
I did too. Yeah,
I haven't done it yet.
I'm not getting that pea shooter. Just from
It's just all the little tweaks like that where it's like within the game they're like making you feel like you're hacking the game. Like just those little touches like that just are so cool.
It is. There's a lot of layered depth in this, to the point where like I'm a knucklehead, and for like several runs in playing this game, it wasn't until last night that I was like, oh, I spent all this money on like these different types of shots, like these like 3-way shot versus 5-way shot, and I had equipped those. I'm like, oh no, it says right here that like once you go through, like it's not adding to my benefit to like flip through the stages to get these different types of attacks. It's beneficial to layer different like things.
You only have
just
one
replacing
type per time or like per slot. I also did not realize that until like maybe the 3rd level. I was like, oh, I bought like 3 beam type weapons.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, oh, I like those. Like, let's get all those. And I just treated it like Gradius that way. Like, oh, this is my loadout. It goes, it steps through from this to this to this to this, and this one's the most powerful at the end. But instead, I did like the 1.2 attack as my first thing, and then because I just like to be aggressive like that, and then from there, I think laser. And then maybe it was the one where you have the different ships that's like your ship
the
around
rotating
you.
Bits.
Yeah.
I definitely
rotating
had
bits.
that. Yep.
Yep. And got into some of those things. I can't even remember what the one I stuck with at the last point was, but it's just fun to just kind of mess around with it between those stages. You're like, oh, I got this many to spend. Like, how can I strategically do this? Like, oh, maybe I should up the amount of bombs I get, because bombs are so crucial too to have this massive. And I did the massive like super laser attack. I just want to blast the shit out of the boss. Like when he shows up, and just like knock that sucker down for a quarter HP, or mess him out of like this one like bullet hell pattern that I know he's gonna throw at me, right? You know.
So did you get? I think Kevin talked about it in the episode that he like first brought up DRAINUS. Did you get to like the second half of the game or whatever?
Yes.
Like, so
Okay.
I am stuck on a boss because like, in the second go through or second run, the new game plus, whatever you want to call it, like the bosses are just hit so much harder. And like the first run, like you kind of have that flexibility where you can be like, I'm going to use whatever strategy I want to beat the boss.
You got to be good at shooters, but you don't have to be like amazing at them. Like I'm by no means like an incredible bullet hell player. And it's like I only died a few times.
It's a little forgiving
game, and like it's on the easy side, which I like. That's one of the things I like about it.
But the new game plus, like I was just like running my head against the wall on certain, like, because all the bosses are also like multi-stage bosses that have different patterns you have to learn, and like you have to learn the patterns, otherwise you will not advance. Like I would get stuck on it. I was like, fine, I guess I have to figure out how this works, because I don't actually understand when I'm going to like not be just completely obliterated in a single hit.
Which is totally fair. Yeah, no, I didn't even make it to a boss. Like by the time I made it to that like new game plus, like we're going, I guess spoilers, like we're going back in time, and like, you know,
I already spoiled
Froggy,
it before,
use your last thing or whatever. Oh, sorry. Yeah. We're doing this. You are nothing but a MacGuffin for this story, buddy. Sorry. But it's like, you know, go back in time. And then like, I feel like even the first stage is a little harder than it was before for us to have gone back in time. And now I'm too tired to do this effectively. I thought I saw credits. I was feeling good about myself. But
the credits went in reverse, though, when you
was really cool. All the little like flourishes, though, all the little touches of the presentation of this game.
Yes.
Just out of control. I love how good it is. The music, just everything about it, and even the fact, I think it's called deja vu mode. I was trying to figure out the whole time we were talking about. Just the fact that that's what it's called is like every little detail of this game is so good, and then just the little bit of added story without it being overbearing. It's like, you know, it's nothing crazy. It's super generic. Like how many times have we seen, your brother, your sister betrays you? Like, you know, we've seen it a million times, but it's like. That's all you need for a little simple shoot 'em up. You know, it's every Mario game is just like, let's go rescue Princess Peach all over again. It's like, you don't need anything. You just need a small motivation to get the game moving.
I was going to say that's the through line of every Team Ladybug title, is that like, I don't know anything about Touhou as a media property. I don't know anything about Lodoss War as a media property. And like, as I'm playing it just kind of washes over me. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess it makes sense that these characters have motivation to do what they're doing. But like, it is kind of just there to be like, there's a reason why you're doing this. Like, you're going into a room and your character is immediately recognizing and is shocked that they're running into this person that I've never seen and have zero context for. And it's like, all right, this is kind of just here to be here, but it's still nice.
It's just the cherry on top of the beautiful graphics and this like the gameplay that feels so good across the games that I've just played, which is only half of those games. And I
same. You got me really wanting to play Lodoss, because I was looking through the whole time, or not the whole time, but part of the time while you were talking, I was scrolling through the pictures on Steam, which they have a ton of them. And that is a great looking game. I remember looking it up one time before when you had first mentioned it and thinking, oh, this looks pretty cool. But now I'm like, oh, I need to buy this game like now.
And I think we've maybe mentioned it on a previous Savor for the Cast that may not be out yet, but like, I think Team Ladybug's like weak point is also their menu systems, and Lodoss War is by far the roughest. But like DRAINUS is great, but it also still has its own finicky like aspects of like navigating a menu. Definitely. But like Lodoss War is so like kind of inscrutable in a certain way, but like at the same time, like I think Lodoss War is my favorite, like maybe by far, just because I think it like it scratches the very specific itch and Venn diagram of my interests. Like they all are doing kind of similar things, but like with different accents or different focuses. And like, I think that there's a lot of meat on every one of those games to like dig into. But like that one does it for me specifically.
Yeah, you got me sold. I'm definitely going to have a physical copy sitting on my shelf at some point, because I just need to have that game, and I'm probably going to end up with Touhou as well.
I think so too.
I'm literally just imagining that box, which it's not out yet, but they're releasing a physical version in the future here. And
shout out to quality, smaller Japanese developers. We don't have enough of those.
Yeah,
for real.
Seriously. Even their logo's awesome. How it's like the ladybug but it's like a controller at the same time. It's so cool.
It's great.
So cool.
It is.
But yeah, well, we're done gushing with some Ladybug action there. Why don't we kick it over to Randall here for a little more kind of modern retro action.
Yeah, Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons. It's another beat 'em up. That's how they say it every time you launch it. So you have to say it.
That's
that
awesome.
way.
That's awesome.
I'm playing on Xbox, of course, and this was another excuse to break out the arcade sticks.
Nice.
I don't know if I've even mentioned on the podcast, but I was able to get like the 8-bit dough Xbox arcade sticks since like PlayStation 5 has outpaced Xbox Series whatever by like I think like a 4-1 margin or whatever. So like,
are you serious?
I think so, yeah. So it's like,
that's like shocking, especially with the price differential. That is shocking.
I know. Yeah, people are loyal to their PlayStation brand, I guess, even when there's no exclusives to speak of. But I'm also saying that with Xbox also having no exclusives to speak of, so I understand that.
Spider-Man is selling those consoles, I guess.
Buying an old copy of Bloodborne.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as you can backwards compat, which I think you can. I shouldn't speculate. Yeah. So I have this on Xbox, and I'm a huge beat 'em up person. Tina and I do a lot of beat 'em ups, or at least we have historically. Although Diablo 4 in this instance became kind of the quasi beat 'em up du jour over the last year, and kind of took a little bit of the shine away. And granted, there hasn't been that many like notable beat 'em ups, I feel like, in the last couple of years compared to the previous span of time.
Like Turtles is the only one that I can think of in recent memory that was a big like notable like you gotta play this.
Is Streets of Rage beat 'em up?
Yes. Streets of Rage 4, that was within the last handful of years, that was up there too for sure. But
like between that and like anything else,
right,
not much else.
But I will say just off the bat that I really got into this game, and so did Tina.
Nice.
It feels great to play. Like they nailed the gameplay. This is developed by Secret Base, which I had not heard of prior. And I'm not like, as much as I am like a retro fan, I'm not like, oh my god, it's a Double Dragon game, I need to buy it because it says Double Dragon. It was more I heard another podcast, Nintendo World Report, just one of the guys on there that plays a lot of beat 'em ups was gushing about this game, and I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and grab this. It happened to be on sale on Xbox at the time. Why not? And it just feels so good to play. Like they nailed the beat 'em up feel, and kind of like a lot of beat 'em ups lately, like Streets of Rage 4, like that Turtles game that came out. There's some more depth to the gameplay. You almost have like a fighting game sort of amount of moves at your disposal and character choice at your disposal. And you kind of go in like Tekken Tag style or something, or like King of the Fighters, where like you select two characters at the same time that are going to be your like characters going into a level, and then you can kind of hot tag between them once like one of your meters gets to a certain point. And you're kind of managing two characters and their life bars and their like SP bars that let them do like special attacks and whatever. And if you special attack like a crowd of enemies, like 3 or greater, then you get a health item that falls on the floor, which is very crucial because you can take some serious damage in this game. If you're being lackadaisical, you can get hurt pretty quickly. You kind of have to learn your characters, but there's also roguelike elements where once you understand what your gameplay style is and like how it suits you best with like a certain character's play type, one of them's a lady that's like has a bazooka and like generally a gun in a beat 'em up, like more of a long range support character as opposed to an up close, grappler or puncher type. So then between stages, with the money you've gained through treasure that you're getting out of busted barrels and whatever enemies drop, you can spend that currency roguelike style on, things that up your character's ability, increases the potency of a certain special attack, or, you get your life regens faster when you're the character tagged out, as opposed to the active one sort of thing. Like, okay. And you can start like even adding, greater ability to those if those options show up for you because you can only choose between like one of 4 given enhancements between stages. But it adds like a layer of interest and depth, and it like starts building into like your game feel, I guess. And then, you know, if you happen to successfully beat the game, again, spoilers, I guess, but there's multiple endings to this game. You can choose, you know, the way you go through the levels, and then you get to this end point with this boss, and you can choose to like agree with the boss and like go along, and that's like an end of the game is like you went in cahoots with the evil boss, and like credits.
Nice.
And then you like take your tokens, and you can spend tokens to then unlock other new characters for your next run, or like concept art or whatever you want to do. And then it's an incentive. Like in our progression, it was the first time we played, we did okay, but then halfway through got our asses kicked. Game over. You get nothing for your time. Okay, fine. Play again, go through, did what we thought we were supposed to do. All right, that's the end of the game. Here's your credits. You won, get your tokens, but it's basically hints like, yeah, there might be more to go there. And then we did it all over again, but with some of the characters we unlocked now. I got like a Bobo, who's this big dumb motherfucker who's like a big punching bag who can grab guys and grapple.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just the type of character I want to play as. And I paired that character with the lady that can do long range attacks. So like depending on the circumstance and what, you know, Tina had also picked for their characters, like just like evening out, you know, our loadout that way. And so like was able to like see the game through a second time, she and I, and like got a different set of credits and like more tokens to unlock more characters, including the boss characters you see, which is always a fun thing. I'll shout out Mortal Kombat, like getting into that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's real good. I'm enjoying it. I want to like play it again. It just feels very good to play. It's a great modern beat 'em up.
Nice.
Yeah, that's like, I feel like that's like the quintessential, like that's what makes all those like classic beat 'em ups classic, is like you could play them a million times and they don't get old. I was again looking through the screenshots of that while you were talking about that at the start too, and that game looks awesome. It almost looks like a little bit like a Neo Geo Pocket like kind of style, like to the color,
little chibi sort of deal. Almost.
Like you, and a lot of times with like even with that Turtles game or Streets of Rage, like the sprites and beat 'em ups are usually like really huge. That was one of the things I really liked about the Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up. It's like, oh, it's like kind of smaller, same thing, kind of that chibi style.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like almost like little like Mega Man style characters, like size wise or proportion wise,
which is super cute. And it definitely doesn't take itself too seriously that way, which is fun. There's lots of little secrets and levels that you can easily bypass if you're not paying enough attention. And the second time around, you're like, oh, we didn't go, like, look at this. I think we could open this door if we like hit this switch over here. And like, oh yeah, okay. Like there's a lot of like layers to this game. I really appreciate what they did here. I'm not sure how well it did, but I hope it was well enough to expand upon, or, you know, hopefully one day come out with a sequel, because it was a blast.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I always just assume when I see a lot of these retro, you know, kind of remakes or reboots or whatever, that it's just some kind of cheap cash grab these days. And like, had kind of assumed that about this one, and I don't even know that I even knew this existed, to be honest, but just kind of wrote off Double Dragon. It's like, okay, Double Dragon, they're just like churning these out whenever the, you know, Majesco got the license for one or something, you know.
Exactly.
I don't know if they ever made one, but for some reason I have like vague recollection of like a DS game
now that you say
something.
That. Yeah. No, but this is not that. This is not a cynical cash grab by any stretch. I would definitely also recommend playing it if you enjoy beat 'em ups. And you have somebody else to play with, especially, of course, as with any beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Do you have two arcade sticks?
I do. Ooh. So I've got the wireless Xbox 8-bit Dough one, which I was able to grab off of woot.com cheaply.
Ooh, man.
And then before that, as a Christmas present, like 2 or 3 years back, I got the Hori Xbox arcade stick, which is a very nice wired arcade stick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not a bad setup for sure.
Yeah. Very fun to play those games that way.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll get us wrapped up here for the evening with a little PlayStation 4 action. I know I talked about my resolution game on the last Save It for the Cast episode, or one of the recent ones. I don't know when this will come out. I don't know. Maybe that'll be 2 episodes ago. But nonetheless, I won't dig into that just yet, but I am going to talk about that on like a proper episode at some point. But with that said, like I've just been like firing up my PS4 like crazy the last few nights. Like it's like something about it just like getting me in the gaming mood. I was talking about it a little bit before we jumped on here. Like even just like the ambient, like I wouldn't even call it music. It's just kind of like a ambient noise in the background. It's kind of musical though. But just, you know, like in the like little waves and like, soundscape's a good word for it. Yeah. And like, you know, the little sparkles in the background. I just have it on like the default, like, you know, setting or whatever. But just something about, maybe it's just because I like played so much like PS3 back in the day with like DJ and Steve at the old apartment. And like, if that just like takes me back to that era. And to be fair, I was firing up a lot of those games from that time. Like I was like, I kind of thought I had a lot of stuff just from PS Plus, and I did. I was like, oh man, this is locked. I say, you know, I don't have my account anymore or anything like that. But I was like, I actually bought a lot of games on here. I forgot, like that was where I even first played like Enter the Gungeon, Downwell. That was when I was like really doing like my like heavy like roguelike gaming or indie gaming. I was like really just buying all sorts of stuff.
Critter Crunch.
Oh man.
Yeah. Jeez, man. I can't even tell you how many hours I put in on that game. One of the best match 3 puzzle games that you can ever play. Truly. It's amazing. But nonetheless, like I've just been like kind of bouncing around all over the place, and I like looked through my library and I was like, okay, let me re-download like a bunch of stuff that I just either forgot that I had or pretty much that I forgot that I had. And one of the games that really kind of jumped out at me and that's really grabbed my attention over the last few days is LocoRoco. It's kind of the remastered version of it here. Nice. And I actually had this game on PSP back in the day. I ended up getting rid of that however many years ago, just like, okay, I never really play this thing. And I like half regret it, even though I know I probably would never, you know, I don't even pick up my DS or 3DS all that much anymore. So realistically, probably would never touch it. But I was just like, you know, I remember that game being a lot of fun and just being simple. And I was just in the mood to kind of like play something while I had a podcast on in the background. But after just playing for like 2 minutes, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pause this podcast because this music is amazing. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever played any LocoRoco. Oh, yeah. The music is just absolutely incredible. And like, even like you basically play as this like blob character. Maybe they're called LocoRocos. I forget. But you don't have direct control over the character. You're just using the 2 shoulder buttons to either tilt the world. It's a 2D like side scrolling perspective, but like you're either tilting the world a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. And you can't even tilt it all that much. You're kind of almost just giving your character like a little bit of a nudge in one direction. And then you can hold both of them down. And then when you release them, your character will jump. So you can kind of like,
which always feels
finesse
good.
That. Yeah. It's like feels really tactile.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times those physicsy controls can get like really frustrating. And that's what I think is so masterful about this game is that like it's very much like arcadey in the sense, like I think like every level has like you can, as you collect more of your little LocoRoco creature friend characters or whatever, they like kind of get absorbed into your character and you just become like a bigger blob. And then you get like even more physicsy and everything like that. But like on every stage, there's like 20 of those that you can collect. And then there's like a certain number of like any number of hundreds of like all these like little, they're not coins, but whatever little blob orange things that you can collect. And then there's like 3 hidden like moi characters that you can find in each stage. But like something about like me, the way that I typically play these games is like, oh, I got 100%. I got to find everything. And then I lose my momentum unless it's like, that's why I always like some of the newer Mario games, even though I don't love the new Super Mario Brothers series, but like give me like just 3 hidden coins on a stage, like nothing crazy. Yep. But like, okay, but if you're like actually having it, okay, you can like, you got a counter on the actual coins and a counter on this and a counter on this. Like now I got 100% everything. And this game does suffer a little bit from that new Super Mario Brothers syndrome of like, oh, you got to slide against every invisible wall. Like a lot of the secrets are just behind like an invisible, but they telegraph it like a little bit. There'll be like a little plant growing over there out of that crack or like something that like visually gives you a little hint if you're being extra observant, but it's really, really subtle. But at the same time, the way this game like just carries you along, because sometimes you just get into a situation where like, oh shoot, I missed that collectible right there, but I can't go back. Like the level is just moving me along. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way to go back or to get back up there, or I just got like swept away with the wind. Like there's no way to get back to where I was. And like, I guess I could pause and restart the level, but I'd have to restart the whole level. And like, there's no checkpoints or anything. And the levels are only like, 5 minutes long or so. but that's a decently long time to just be playing a platforming level.
Yes.
And I don't know. There's just something about like the way this game just like sweeps me into it. Like, and it is that like, I didn't finish saying what I was going to say about the music. So like your little characters, like they're actually like singing the songs, like their mouths are moving and like singing the songs.
Adorable. Yeah.
I believe all the lyrics are like in Japanese, so I have no idea what they're saying, but it's like the most adorable sounding voices. And like, even like sometimes you'll like you'll roll up to like a friendly NPC in the world or something, and you have to have enough characters collected. So like it'll have like a little sign like holding like 10. So like as long as you've collected up to 10 up to this point, you like stand still in front of them for a minute, and then your big blob will break up into however many characters that you've collected. Whoa. Like all the little individual ones. And then exactly. And they just like kind of scream, and then they all in unison start like singing their little jingle from like the main melody of the song. And it's even cool. Like at first I was like, where is that sound coming from? And the song, or like the audio of them singing, is actually coming from the little speaker on the PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is so cool. Which obviously they like added that in because this was a PSP like exclusive originally. So
yep.
And I want to say they made a LocoRoco 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty
positive about that. I don't know if there's an official like remaster of it. Like on the PlayStation Store or whatever, like they do have of this one here. The only thing that I'll say that's weird about this remaster, like when I first fired it up, the opening cutscene, it's like they like didn't remaster that. Everything else got remastered, but like that was like looking kind of blurry. Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of a bummer. This is like, this game doesn't look as great as I remember it. But then as soon as the game started, I was like, oh no, this game looks amazing. It felt like I had a vibrant PSP screen. It felt exactly like I remembered it. And just the way the physics like all jiggle around, it's like just physicsy enough. It reminds me a lot of that game, a little less puzzly, but that game Fluidity that was on WiiWare from Nintendo. Like really, like you're like tilting the level. It's all about. I don't know. I very rare. I was gonna say I don't always. I very rarely love or enjoy games that where you don't have direct control of the player. But there is a player, if that makes sense. Like, because obviously I like games where it's just like a card game or whatever. But like where there's like a player that you're kind of trying to manipulate or get to, it's an action game.
Physics,
but you're not
puzzles.
Yeah, but you're not. But with no direct control of the character, it's just kind of interesting. How this one just sucks me in. But I think it is just that perfect combination of like the bright, cheerful colors, the music, the like non-motivation to be a completionist. I'm just like, I more just want to see everything, or not see everything, but just experience the game. I don't need to find every last collectible or do every time trial challenge or whatever. I just kind of want to play it when I'm in the mood to relax. It's been like it's just been pretty stressful at work. I shouldn't say stressful at work, but it's just been like busy at work lately. Yeah. So it's just been like the perfect game to just like come home and like, okay, I'm just going to play some LocoRoco and play a few more levels. And it looks like there's like 5 worlds with, 6, 7, 8 levels each. So I'm like, man, I'm still on the first world here. And each level is like its own world in and of itself. Like so far I've like played some ice levels. I've played some, all different types of settings. It's not like it's just like, oh, here's your world 1, all ice levels in a row, which is another thing that can get kind of boring or like annoying when you're playing a platformer. Like, I'm kind of just sick of playing this style of level and you got to play 8 of them in a row or something,
Yes.
So I really like how this game's just mixing it up. I kind of forgot how much I enjoyed playing these like Sony, quote unquote indie games that they were putting out in this era.
They had a run
PSP,
there for sure.
PS3, Patapon,
I was just going to mention
like all those games.
Ratatan, which is the spiritual successor to Patapon.
I didn't even know about that game because I think they made a Patapon 2 as well. I didn't know that there was another follow-up.
No, it's coming out in 2025.
Oh, whoa. Okay, so maybe they are still making these games. Is it from Sony?
It's from the same developer, I think, as Patapon, but but like the PSP was that era of like just those specific types of games that like did kind of fall out of favor, but were just so incredible on that system.
Yeah, I think it was just like the perfect price point at that time. It was like, hey, you got these AAA games at $60 when they were just starting to kind of roll out these games for $5, $10, $15. And I was like, hey, I can just download that right now and play it immediately. Okay, I don't even have to leave my house. It was just kind of like the novelty of that at that time too.
LocoRoco is so adorable too.
Yeah.
Just God,
Yeah.
it's just like they encapsulated it, and it's not cynical. It just totally is its thing, unapologetically, and it's a lovely little experience for sure.
Yeah, it's like pure joy in video game form. That's the perfect way to put it. It's just so fun. And even when it's frustrating, it's like it's not in a weird way. It's just not, because it's so cheerful, I guess.
Yep. And the input's simple enough that I messed that up. Is like, that's on me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, just such good stuff. But yeah, I think I can leave it there for now, but I'm definitely going to be talking some more PS4 stuff or just PlayStation stuff in general on top of Uncharted, because I've been in the zone. I dug up some more physical copies that I didn't forgot that I had. So I was like, oh man, got The Last Guardian. I was almost ready to pop that in the other day, but I was like, I'll wait. I've already popped in 2 discs here. I don't need to test my luck with that tapping on the top of the system here. So, well, I got Uncharted in. I got to see it through, or at least see it through to where my stopping point's going to be.
Yeah,
so
very curious about that.
Yeah, I'll definitely update on that in the future. But yeah, if you guys are good to wrap it up there, I think we can call it for this week. And until next week, we will catch you guys then. You can always find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. I almost forgot that part there, but yeah, until next time, we will catch you then, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I'd play some Rocket League.
I would definitely be down.
Yeah.
I would definitely be down if you guys ever want to sync up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm into it.
Yeah. I'll get that reinstalled, baby. I love that game.
Yeah, same. I got to make sure I've got mine installed.
Oh, and I forgot
I would totally be down.
I forgot that like 3-on-3 is like the default.
Yeah.
I played so much 2-on-2 with DJ, like that like became the default in my mind, but I forgot that 3-on-3
is my default.
4-on-4 is fun.
4-on-4 is great, because then you can have a dedicated goalie.
Oh, you know what? I don't know if they have that anymore. I think we actually looked for that because we were like, or am I thinking of something? No, I think they don't have it anymore.
Really?
I think we tried to do it because we had enough.
Did they get rid of hockey as well?
Maybe.
Fucking hockey is actually my favorite one.
Yeah,
because
it feels good.
Yeah,
the puck physics are cool. Like
puck
it adds
physics
enough
are
of a twist.
so good.
It adds enough of a twist.